to the 6th of December. Today is the last day for the early bird prize. Next week onwards, we're going to activate protocol Angry Bird. Going to charge you extra. And today is the subsidized rate they can get. Today's the last day. You can either register. If you didn't bring your money, it's okay, but please register today so they can get the early bird prize. And then next week onward, we're going to go to the regular unsubsidized prize. So if you need to register, see Lindsay or Joy, please raise your hand so you know who to register with. And that's 4th to 6th of December, we're going to Pulai Disaru. And according to Tham, we have a new road and it's going to be closer than we expected to get there. Hopefully that's the case and the traffic's not going to be too bad at the customs. But before we start, let's pray again. Heavenly Father, Lord, as we come to the day where we celebrate communion, and Father, as we go into your word, bring us the teaching you want us to understand before we practice the ceremony of humility and also the communion service. Father, Lord, guide us, work in our hearts. May Holy Spirit come and help us to listen to your Spirit's talking. Speak through your words, speak through me. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. And one of the things that most houses or homes have a lot of are mugs or cups. Mugs or cups, especially if your dad was at some point a teacher. Something about giving cups to teachers. It's a lot. My dad taught for a few years in between his pastoring work, and also later on, the later part of his life, he spent it a lot in teaching. And so imagine if you have a class of 20 students, Teacher's Day comes along. I don't know why, but if you go to a souvenir shop, most of the gifts there are cups or mugs. And then 20 students buy you a mug or a cup every single year for like 10 years. That's like 200 mugs and cups. And on top of that, if you work for any company, if the company has any special events or anything going on, they give every employee a mug or a cup. Whoever thought of that was genius. It's like, this cup is something that we need. But just print stuff on it, and then we can have free advertising, and people will buy it to give to people. And because of that, my house at the current count, I did a count instead. I couldn't finish counting, but I finished at about 250 cups. There are 5 people in my family. We can use a different cup every day for 70 days straight, and we have a new cup. Cups and mugs are interesting things. We have bowls for eating, plates for eating, and there's this cup for drinking liquid. I don't know why, you just have an extra utensil shaped small so that you don't drink too much water at the same time. But yet, health tells us that we must drink, for my size, 3 liters of water a day. That's many, many, many cups. Why don't they just put jugs everywhere and drink it? But I was in Taiwan and I was visiting one of the museums one time, and it was very interesting to visit the museum, because what happened was when there was war in mainland China, there was a lot of countries attacking China, and so a part of the army ran to this island today called Taiwan, and they brought along with them a lot of imperial treasures to protect it from being raided by the enemies. So a lot of the treasures that's actually in mainland China are gone because the enemies came and they took everything they could take back to their home countries. But the group of Taiwanese soldiers took whatever they could to protect it. And if you go to the museum, it's called the Imperial Museum in Taiwan, you actually see more imperial artifacts, historical artifacts there than in mainland China's museum, because they managed to protect it and take it along with them before it was stolen. And if you go there, there's 5 stories of just history of mainland China. And there's one thing that if you go and you see the emperor's chamber. And there was one thing that I was really surprised, because the emperor, he would use the best of the best of the best. And to the Chinese, the best of the best of the best is gold. If you go see the temple, the robe, he's the only one allowed to wear the imperial gold yellowish robe. He's the emperor. Everything he has is gold, his chair is decorated with gold, but if you look at the cup that he used, it's silver. And I was wondering why. Why is his cup silver? And I realized that if you look at history, a lot of the royal family or the royal leaders of the world, their cup are always silver. And so I asked around, and I was asking my dad, and my dad's like, he's this historical crazy person that knows everything about history of China. So I was like, Dad, why are the cups silver? And he says, well, probably, I'm not exactly sure, but probably this. Because according to Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine belief, they say that silver will react with any poison and turn black. And so the emperor, if you know history of any imperial family and royal family, you know it's all about poisoning the previous guy. If I can kill him, I can take over his throne. And in some kings, man, they are kings for like 2 weeks and then they're dead because somebody killed them. And so the royal family, the emperor, in order to protect himself, uses a silver cup so that when anything that's poured into it, if it turns the cup black, they will not drink it. On top of that, they make this poor guy called a eunuch who stands beside him take a sip first, and then so if he dies, he will not drink it too. Which is a double protection, so that he will not die. So if you go, you see the cup is the only thing in the chamber of the emperor that is silver and not gold. Of course, they try to put some gold lining outside of the cup, but mainly that cup is silver. And so we come to today's story about cups. We saw this conversation between James and John and Jesus. James and John come to Jesus after talking to their mom. They go to Jesus and says, Jesus, when you go to heaven, when your kingdom comes, they didn't say go to heaven. They said, when your kingdom comes, when in their mind they imagine when you overthrow the Romans, me and my brother, can we like sit on your left and right, so that in your kingdom, when you are king, in their minds are thinking on your left and your right, I'll be your prime minister, I'll be your home affairs, minister of defense, something great in your kingdom. But Jesus says, you want to drink from my cup? You sure you can take it? And they say, yes, we can. We can take it. I'll come back to the story later, but today we go to another story about cups in Genesis chapter 44. In Genesis chapter 44 is the last few stories before Genesis ends and before the story of the Exodus and Moses and the Israelites starts. And this tells us why the Israelites were in Egypt. In chapter 44 is where the brothers, Jacob's son, have to go to Egypt to buy food because the whole place was suffering from a famine, just as Joseph dreamt. And so they were in Egypt and they were there to buy grains, and they went back once, and here they're back for a second time because Jacob sent them back and says, buy more grain. And this time around, Joseph, the brother who was sold to Egypt earlier on in his life, was saying, no, you can't come back to see my face unless you bring the youngest one, Benjamin. And so the brothers reluctantly says, all right, we'll bring the youngest one. They begged the father for letting Benjamin go with them. And so Jacob says, all right, take care of your brother. So bring Benjamin in, and they were with Joseph. They had a great meal, and the next day they were going to leave and they were going to go back. But the thing is, previously when they bought grain, they came to Joseph, they paid Joseph the silver. Joseph actually put all those silver back in their bag and let them take it home. And so when they found out that they had a silver bag, they panicked. They're like, oh no, we're supposed to pay for this grain, and he gave us our silver back. Oh no. So this time around, when they went back, when they paid for their grains, they put double the portion of silver that they paid previously so they could pay him back for the last time they bought grain. And so they had a great meal, and they were preparing the next day, and they couldn't leave to go home. And it starts in chapter 44, verse 1. So now Joseph gave this instruction to the steward of the house. Fill the man's sack with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Again, he's returning them the money. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. So Joseph tells the steward, all right, they're going to leave, fill their bags with the grains that they ask, and give them more, and give them back their money, but put my cup in the sack of the youngest one, which is Benjamin, precious. And as morning dawned, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward something really strange. He says, go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also used for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done. When he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them, but they said to him, why does my Lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mount of our sack. So why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? So the steward caught up with the people, with the brothers, and says, why have you stolen from Joseph, my master? And he says, we didn't, we won. It doesn't make sense. We gave you back double portion of the silver. We came back and we brought our brother as you requested. Why would we want to steal from your master? If that's the case, we wouldn't even come back and wouldn't even pay you in the first place. And so I'm going to check. They say, the steward said, I'm going to check with you. He said, so why would we steal? Is there any of this one found to have it? He will die, and the rest of us will become my Lord's slave. So they say, well, I'm sure we didn't take anything. If you find it in any of our sacks, we'll become your slave. And so they put down their bags, and they checked. The steward went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And so they like, what have our brother done? And all the brothers went to notes in verse 13, chapter 44. At this, they tore their clothes, then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. All the brothers returned to the city. The all word here is very, very significant. Because remember who these brothers are. These are the brothers who were so jealous of Joseph for having a multicolored coat. These are the brothers who were so jealous of Joseph that they even plotted to kill him. These are the brothers who saw Jacob, their father, love Joseph more than them, and was so jealous that they wanted to just get rid of him forever. In the end, thank God Judah had a little bit of sense. They didn't kill him. They sold him and sold him to Jacob. These are the brothers who snapped the finger and just get rid of the brother because it challenged their monetary status in the family. But right now, when the youngest brother was cut, same mother, that same Rachel gave birth to Joseph and to this Benjamin, and this brother now is loved more than Joseph. Same situation, but now the brothers no longer say, good, now we can get rid of him. No. They didn't bring him so that they could get rid of the brother. When the steward found the silver cup in the sack of Benjamin, all of them went back to Egypt. It's what happened. Verse 14. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brother came in. They threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, what is this you have done? They still don't know Joseph is a brother they sold. And they're in a situation where, why have you stolen from me, guys? I've treated you so well. If you read 43, they had a feast for these guys. And Joseph was there and says, why have you done this? But he planted that thing. But he was trying to see how the brothers would react. And then Judah, in verse 18, came up. Then Judah went up to him and said, pardon your servant, my Lord. Let me speak a word to my Lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to the Pharaoh himself. My Lord asked his servant, do you have a father or a brother? And we answered, we have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he's the only one that of his mother's son left, and his father loves him. So Joseph was gonna like show them their angry face, and Judah came, sir, before you get angry, let me explain. He said, you ask us whether we had a brother. We said, yes, we have Benjamin, who is still with our father Jacob, and Jacob loves him. He has an older brother, but he's dead. And now, he recounted the story of how the father would not be able to take it if Benjamin was once again taken away from him. That Joseph was taken from him once, and Benjamin, the younger one, is taken away for the second time. That the father will not take it. So in verse 30, he says, so now, if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant, my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the great head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to the father, I said. If I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. And this is it. Verse 33. This is it. The Judah who sold Benjamin away, who sold Joseph away, now says this word. It says, now then, please let your servant remain here as my Lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. At this point, Joseph understood that his brothers has changed. You know, the whole Bible are types and symbolism of God, and especially Jesus. And in this very one story, we see Jesus being represented by two persons, Joseph and Judah. But today I'm going to focus on Judah. Judah, the man who was, the person who would sell his brother, has reached this point of change in his life where now when he found out that Benjamin would be a slave in a foreign country, that he says, let not that happen. Let me take his place. Even though I'm innocent, I'm willing to sacrifice myself for my brother, that he and my other brothers may go back. This cup that Judah is willing to take resulted in Joseph opening up himself and telling them, I am actually your brother, Joseph, whom you sold, whom you think you're doing evil in the eye of the Lord. But the Lord took your evil and he blessed it. And now bring my father into the land of Egypt and you'll be blessed. So Joseph plays the role of God too. But Judah in this situation plays also the role of God in the form of Jesus. That because of his willingness to sacrifice, his family was blessed. And they were able to receive the blessing from God and be able to come to Egypt into the land of blessing and protection. Whenever there's a cup in the Bible, it's always related to suffering. And it's always related to sacrifice. And so, going back to the story of James and John, when they come to Jesus and say, Jesus, can we stand by your left and be by your left and right? Jesus says, can you drink of my cup? And they says, we can. When God asks us, can we drink of his cup? He's asking us, can you take suffering? And can you take sacrifice? And very often this sacrifice involves taking the guilt of something that is not your fault. Being in a position where you're innocent, you did not deserve it, but having to take it so that somebody else can be blessed. Now I want to go to the cup. There's the all more important cup that relates to what we're doing today. Turn me to Luke. Sorry, turn to me to Mark chapter 14. Mark chapter 14. There was a person who came to this earth for the sole purpose of taking the cup. In Mark 14, verse 32. Mark 14, 32. And it's a very intimate description of the event because Mark is actually telling the story of Jesus through the eyes of Peter. And Peter was one of the three who was brought up to Gethsemane, who was there just before he fell asleep. He heard these words probably. Verse 32 in chapter 14 of Mark says, they went to a place called Gethsemane and Jesus said to his disciple, sit here while I pray. He took Peter, James, and John along with him and began to be deeply distressed and troubled. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, he said to them. Stay here and keep watch. Going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass away. And this is very intimate because in Mark was the only record where this was clearly stated out. In the others, it was not as clear, but here it says, Abba, Father. Because Peter was close enough to hear, other records of this incident in Gethsemane only says Jesus prayed to the Father, or he prayed my Father. But Peter specifically records Abba, Father. which in Hebrew was actually Abba, Abba. Father, Father. Aramaic actually, Jesus who speak Aramaic. Father, Father. It was a close and intimate situation where Jesus couldn't even just pray normally, but he was at a point where he was so burdened that he cried to his Father in a close and intimate way. He said, Father, Father, as though he was worried that the Father would not hear him. But he was desperate, he was calling out, Father, Father. He said, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet not I will, but what you. See, the cup is heavy. Every time we celebrate a communion service, we celebrate the death. We remember the death of Jesus. We celebrate his promise to come and take us home. Or we remember the death, but what is the significance of his death? Imagine Jesus on the cross. He didn't just die. He died for all of us. Have you done something wrong before? You felt the guilt of it? Jesus took the guilt not only for himself. He has no guilt on himself because he's never sinned. See, I feel really bad when I do something wrong and I feel guilty about it. But imagine Jesus at a point in time, he took the guilt of the entire human race. If you just calculate from today, 6 billion people's guilt on one man. And this earth is about 6,000 over years old, populated by humanity. 6,000 over years old. And for the future to come, the earth is predicted to go to 8 billion people. He didn't just take it until his time, he took it all the way into the future, just before his second coming. Every single humanity's guilt was upon him. 6 billion times 10 is 60 billion. I can't even take one person's guilt. Jesus took all our guilt for us. He drank for us the cup, and no man can take. And he didn't deserve it. He was innocent like Judah. But yet, for the sake of his brother, he says, I will drink this cup and I will take it. James and John asked Jesus, can we be our left and right? Jesus says, will you drink my cup? They says, yes, we can. And Jesus actually didn't deny it. Jesus says, indeed you can and you will drink of this cup. That word that he speaks to James and John is not just to James and John, but to all of us. I believe SDACC is a church that is willing to drink the cup of suffering and sacrifice in order for others to come and know Jesus. If we were to look at our lives, are we living a life that is comfortable and is a life of just no cup drinking, no suffering, no sacrifice required? Then we need to look at our lives and say, wait a minute, is this the life God calls me to live? Because God says his disciple will have to drink of his cup of sacrifice and suffering. Maybe you haven't reached the stage where you have to, but at the same time ask yourself, if there's somebody you need to bring to Christ that you need to sacrifice, maybe your time alone, your time out, your holiday time, your time for dinner with your family, your time with friends. I'm not saying do it all the time, but there are times where you might need to sacrifice time in order for somebody to come to know Jesus. SDACC can do it, and I know you can. But a choice has to be made to start today. To drink the cup for God that Jesus has already done. We're just partaking together with him. And we see Jesus says, not my will, but your will be done. If God calls us to something, he will give us the strength to do it. This sacrifice will not feel like a sacrifice when you see your dearest, most beloved friends and family come to Jesus and accept salvation. It will not be a suffering, it will not be a pain. Like Judah, when he saw that Joseph was actually his brother, that his family could now come to Egypt and never suffer from famine again. When you sacrifice and suffer, but when the day comes when you see your friend and your family in heaven with you, then that cup is a very small cup. But that cup is what we need to drink today. So, as we go for our humility service, our foot washing ceremony, ask that as you pray with somebody, pray for that. Ask God to reveal your cup to you. Maybe if you are bearing a cup, you are drinking a cup, pray for one another that God will strengthen them to be able to drink. And later when we come back to communion, remember that as you eat of the bread, drink of the cup, that Jesus first drank it and first broke his body for you. I invite the guys to stand and go to the outside, the back for the foot washing. The ladies to go to the cafeteria. The families to go off at the right or at the back. If any of you have accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, you are invited to participate in these food washings. So please proceed now. For the guys outside, we will be repenting for sure, because when people used to repent in Old Testament time, they pour ashes on themselves. The air is filled with ashes. So as we go out, we will be bearing repentance. So for the band at the back, family, the ladies in the cafeteria or the kitchen,